Hello, hello. All right. Welcome everyone to the stream. My name is Fruitsies, and today we're gonna be figure out a way to like pick a deck, right? Because I think that a lot of times when we're starting to get into it and we don't really want to jump into the aspect of collecting too many decks or collecting too many cards per se, one thing that we run into is trying to find the right deck or trying to find the deck that vibes the most. The first thing that we have to realize, or the first thing that I have to realize, is that not every single card in the deck I am going to love, right? And even though that may happen, that's okay, because you don't have to love every single card in the deck. If that's something that you want for sure, then you're gonna definitely struggle a lot to find one. However, if you want to be flexible and open enough to some possibilities of maybe some decks that can really vibe with you, then, you know, just be open to that possibility that you're not going to like every single card. But there is a way to approach it to where you can love the deck that you end up picking, or feeling like you're picking the right kind of deck. And the first suggestion that I give is find one card that you like the most, or one card that you feel like identifies the most with you, or a set of cards that within the deck that vibe with you, or that you feel like you identify with the most, and then picking decks based on those cards that come up in the deck that you feel the most attracted to. I know that the Fool card is one that I vibe with a lot, and one that really rings the most. Like, for example, this has a very similar aesthetic, but the big difference is that there's a different action taking place into the card. So then I have to think to myself, okay, when I picture the Fool card, what do I see him doing? What do I see him having? What do I see him wearing? Do I want him to be a very abstract picture? Do I want him to be a human? Do I want him to be an animal? Do I want him to be an angel, a spirit? Whatever it is that you feel like will bring the most true to you, like what you will like, then try to go with something similar to that. Like, for example, we can go from a picture like this, and then we can go to something more like this, right? This is a little bit something more warrior style per se. Like, I'm not gonna feel very connected with this per se, because it's not something that really vibes with me personally when I look at this card, or what it's supposed to signify to me. And that's another very important aspect of it. So for example, if you look at another example, like this is a Fool, right? This one has more of a jester-like costume. It's a little bit more gray, so you can look at it more like, oh, like a thing, where they're gonna go into, I guess, like a Dorothy Wizard of Oz kind of a journey, where they're gonna go through and then they're gonna get colorized or something. You know, there's a little bit something more deeper behind this. Like, this is a beautiful card. You can do this for like different cards, and then once you do that, try to research that card and seeing all of the different aesthetics and artworks that are behind it, that there are currently decks out there for, and then try to look for that specific deck and kind of browse through the different cards that are in. So this one, it can be either like a hit or a miss in kind of getting exactly what you want. The other way to do it is that if you're looking for something more unique per se, then the other thing that you can do is there are many different websites. Like, for example, you can look into like Amazon is one of them, or you can look at Etsy as well. One of the places that I've been kind of falling in love with in looking at is Kickstarter. Although if you want to do like a Kickstarter, you have to be a little bit more patient for the cards to arrive. But that's just kind of depending on the person that you are. So, and then from Kickstarter, what I usually do is that I just like to put in the search bar, I just do like tarot. Or if I can just spell. And then once you have your results, you can search by either most popular or by the most funded, so on and so forth. And the thing is that one thing that I don't want anyone to get discouraged, if you like, this is something that rings true to you, is that if a project has already been funded, and now they're just kind of waiting for the cards to be released, or they're kind of in the middle of that process, do not get fully discouraged, because sometimes some of these artists, after they've created their decks, they'll leave their Kickstarter up, and they will just sell it through the Kickstarter as independent decks. So the one that I've been doing the most recently is just doing it by the newest, because that's how I keep myself posted on what's out and what's not. So like, for example, these Cosmic Cycles, like this is a newer one, and this is like a really fun take in regards to tarot, you know, and then kind of seeing if that feels right to you, if that is cool. Like, this is more of a modern take, which looks really, really lovely, to say the least. Try to get as much information as you can about the different cards that are in it, or if you see one, like for example the Fool, which is the one that I was talking a little bit earlier, like I noticed that they have, this is the card, I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. It's like the picture of somebody ready to go on a trip, ready to go on a travel. They're holding different kinds of items. You know, is that something that you like? Is that something that rings true to you? And then just kind of going off from there, you know. And the thing about Kickstarter is, obviously, you know, there's always like a little bit of a risk factor. One, you kind of have to wait for the whole thing to be done, and then you have to wait for the cards to come through. And sometimes you may not have all the cards right in front of you to like judge for yourself. But this is like another really good way to go about it if you kind of want to go outside the box for picking a deck. Amazon, right? So like, you can go to Amazon and then you can start typing like tarot deck. And then just kind of go off from there and kind of see the different things that come out. So like, for example, this is one way that I ended up finding out different kinds of decks that kind of intrigued me for a little bit. Now, for example, the Lion Strider, like this is a deck that kind of stood out to me when I first looked at it, because I just love that watercolor type of feel to cards, especially because I personally have a watercolor tattoo on my arm. So I identify very much with that kind of an art style. And then you can obviously look at the different pictures, kind of take a little bit more of a bigger glance. And because there's other people who already have these decks, you can scroll down to the customer images, and they will give you a bigger range of the different cards that are already in the deck itself. So for example, even though it's a little bit sideways, but you can see the different cards that are already in here, like the wands, the swords, the cups, and then you get some of the major arcana, the Hangman, which is depicted as a tiger, the Devil, which is just this with the pentagram, and then the two people that are there, the Fool, so on and so forth. So the fact that people are uploading pictures and giving these kinds of reviews definitely helps a lot in kind of helping you pick up a deck. And so that's another way to go about it. And then reading on the different reviews is also really, really important, because you want to make sure that you're making a very informed decision based on other people's experiences too. You don't have to read the descriptions. When I usually read the descriptions is to really gauge the quality of the card itself, because some cards, like for example with the Shadow Escapes, beautiful deck. The artwork is phenomenal. Like, it's something that was like, you know what, I wouldn't depict every single card in this particular way, but the overall theme and the way that the art itself is being composed throughout the entire deck is my style. It's something that I can really identify with, something that I can connect with. And you go into it, and then I opened it up. It felt kind of flimsy in a way. It didn't feel very sturdy. And as I was kind of, you know, on getting them all unstuck from each other because they were all really like stuck together, one of the cards ended up ripping on the corner, and I was just like, oh, well, that's really sad. And I was generally truly sad because I went getting the deck with really, really high expectations and really trying to understand, like, oh wow, I can really connect with this. I can really make this work. But then it ended up. It also gives you a little bit of a recommendation list if there was something that you liked about it. They also give you a list of where you have customers who view this item also view these, which sometimes fall along the lines of kind of that same aesthetic and that same, um, like that same kind of style. So you can look at different recommendations of what you have here, and then maybe seeing if something really like vibes. They also have Etsy, and Etsy is very much like independent, kind of like sellers that you can do this with, and you can see like different what they have as well. And of course you can also see like different styles and different things that they have going on. Now it's gonna be a little bit different because you're not going to have that, oh, I'm gonna pick that one card and I'm just gonna stick with that one card. But you're doing this because you're trying to go more for like the aesthetic of the entire deck, more so than these are my favorite cards. I want to pick a deck based on what the art of these specific 3 or 4 cards that I identify myself with the most. But this is another way to kind of approach it and to do it. Now it's gonna be a lot of like filler stuff like bags, boxes, apparel, so on and so forth. So you're just gonna have to sift through that extra stuff in there. But at least you can spend some time to just kind of really dissect and find anything else that really rings right with you here. And kind of take your gamble there. The one place that I found that was slightly unexpected, that I thought I was not expecting it, to be honest with you, it was going through the Reddit. Crazy. But the Reddit does have a subreddit for tarot. So we have the tarot here. And the subreddit of the tarot really has like a lot of different things that you can do. The one thing that really struck with me the most, and this is the one where I'm kind of like, I might want to do this. There's some people who just kind of post different stuff that they're doing, whether it is a specific tarot deck that they're using from their different posts. Like for example, if I look through this, like through this specific post, I see, oh wow, look at this, like look at the cards that this person is using. I wonder where they got it from. And you don't have to be shy. You can actually post them a message and just say, hey, this deck looks really beautiful. Like those cards look really beautiful. What kind of deck is this? And usually people in the Reddit are more than happy and welcome to like respond back to you. Like for example, like this is not something that I found on either the Google or the Amazon, the Etsy, the Kickstarter, or any of those sort of places. And you can do the same thing also with Facebook groups. They can be really resourceful when it comes to this kind of stuff, where some people would just post pics of, oh, this is, you know, I pulled up these 3 cards with this question. What does it mean? You know, you don't necessarily have to go in there trying to interpret their spread, but sometimes I just go into like, wow, those cards look really pretty. I wonder where they're from. Like this is one of them, you know. It's the Happy Tarot deck. So, like for example, we got a chance to find that out because somebody had to ask, right? If we're not the only ones who are thinking it, then somebody else has to be thinking it too, and they might have already asked you that question. So if I look here at the Happy Tarot by Soreka Fika, see, it's right here. And we found ourselves another tarot deck. And then because of that recommendation, you can look at all the tarot decks that those people suggested. You know, this is the kind of stuff where you can just keep going through over and over and over again to a point where we're just going to be looking at so many different possible. just as a really quick recap of what we've been talking about in terms of finding the right kind of tarot deck, you have a few choices. The first thing is that you can always just Google what you want and try to Google a few specific cards that really ring true to you, that you really want to connect with the deck that you're gonna get, whether that's a major arcana or not. Just have a few cards, at least have one in mind. Google the card and then look at the different types of arts that are for that specific card and see if they come in a specific deck. The second way is for you to go and look into websites like Etsy and Kickstarter to see if, you know, there are decks that independent sellers are trying to promote or that they are trying to sell to other people, just so you can get a really good idea of, okay, this is what other people are trying to come up with now. Do I want to support it? If not, the one thing is that if you do it through Kickstarter, it's going to take you a little while to get the deck because you have to wait through the entire backing process, and that can take several months. So just be worried of that. If you do it through Etsy, they're independent sellers, so you're going to have to sift through all the different stuff that they have there. You can also do it through Amazon. Just look through Amazon Tarot Deck and just kind of scroll through the different pages. If you find a deck that has a similar style to what you're looking for, you can go ahead and you can look at the section where it says customers who view this item also looked at, and then just sift through that and see if there's something else that rings true to you there. The other last option that I suggest, which is the fourth one, is looking through either Reddit or Facebook groups, where people sometimes post help for specific readings or cards or feedback, anything of the sort. But you can get a really good sense of what cards people are using, and they'll post those cards. And if there's cards that you like, that really impress you and you're wowed by, you can send them a post and say, hey, what's the name of this deck? Where is this deck from? Or where are these cards from? And there'll be people that are more than happy to answer that question for you. And then go off from there. There's so many different decks, and I know it can get incredibly overwhelming, but really go into it with an open mind and do your best to really try to hone down exactly what you want. And remember one thing is that not every single card in that deck that you see has to be perfect. It doesn't. But there has to be some key cards that you identify with the most that have to ring true to you, whether it's the art itself or just the theme of the overall deck. It just has to ring to you for you to feel satisfied with your purchase. But other than that, I hope that was really helpful. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment onto the description below this video. And in the meantime, I hope you guys are having a really wonderful day and you guys are doing a wonderful job. Stick to your guns, stick to your intuition. This is a really fun thing you can do, and stay fresh.